From the outside looking in, Emily had a perfect life. She was beautiful, she had beautiful kids, she had all of these talents that were visible and easy to see. But she was just like anybody else in that she had trials and struggles and weaknesses. I don't think I fully grasped the depth of her suffering and what she was going through.
Okay, look at us.
Emily was really kind. She saw people, she connected with them. She was very driven. She did pageants, she played the piano. She had kind eyes. She drew you in with them, and a lot of that was because she was smiling, she was happy, she was bubbling. As a little kid, you think about what you want to be and how you want to be growing up. And to me, Emily was my idol. She knew what she was shooting for and what her goals were. I think that drivenness and her desire to, excel in things, it did spill over into all areas of her life, and especially in motherhood. The decision to have Emily and Eric's last baby was one that they didn't take lightly. There's actually a 5-year gap between Macy and Trey, but they felt very strongly that they should. As she delivered Trey, there were some complications with that, and it was traumatic and it was scary. Soon after, we realized that there were other changes that took place in her. It was pretty evident to all of us, and especially Eric, that she was different after she came home. Trauma and the impact that it has on our brains changes us. And because of that, it not only changed her neurologically, but it changed how she thought and how she perceived things. She was more anxious, she was worried, she struggled with nursing and had a lot of heightened anxiety about that. She would have intrusive thoughts. She would wake up in the night with panic attacks. And so for several months after she had Trey, it was kind of this up and down of where do we go, what do we do, to the point where they even had moments where the anxiety was so bad that the only thing that they felt like they could do was go to the emergency room. And I remember one particular experience where she went and the doctor came in, talked to them, asked a few questions, and his response was, well, I'm not exactly sure, what you were coming here for and what you were expecting to get out of this. To have to walk home after that, when that was kind of your one thing that you were grasping at for help, is disappointing and overwhelming. She struggled with the anxiety to a point where it didn't feel like she could handle it anymore. And because of that, and the fact that she didn't feel like there was anything that she could do about it, she had dark thoughts. She had times where she didn't want to be here. And that wasn't who Emily was. In January of 2016, Emily's level of anxiety just increased to the point again where it was unmanageable and overwhelming for her. And because of that, she and Eric decided to check her into an inpatient facility. She was still nursing Trey, and going into an inpatient facility, she had to stop weaning him overnight and have that separation. For a woman to go through that biologically and with her hormones causes all kinds of changes. There were some aspects of being in the hospital that did help Emily, and after she came home, she was doing better than she had been doing before, to the point where as a family we thought, okay, we're going in the right direction, we've overcome this, and we can check that off of our list.
Love you. Too. Seems like it's been forever since I've seen you.
But about 2 weeks later, sure enough, that anxiety returned and it settled in again. Keep in mind, she had been dealing with these cycles and ups and downs of the anxiety for almost a year now. And with each time, it got a little bit worse. There was anxiety about having the anxiety. There was a day a couple weeks after she came home from the hospital that the anxiety had reached that heightened level again to where she just felt like she needed to go and get away, and she wanted to go and be with my parents and find some support. She was really struggling that day. She was struggling with feeling hope about her situation and didn't feel like she had the energy and the ability to continue dealing with this. So they made a plan. My parents were actually going to go on a little road trip, and they decided that they were going to take her with them. They were on the freeway, and Emily was triggered again, and she experienced a panic attack to the point where she didn't feel safe and tried to get out of the car. My dad pulled over, and she was able to do so. She ran up the freeway in a disoriented, scared and panicked state, and unfortunately a semi-truck came along at that time and hit her and took her life. I remember very clearly the day that Emily passed away. I was getting ready to go to work, and my husband had just come home, and the second I saw him, I knew that something was wrong. And I asked him, "Is it Emily?" And he just nodded, and I immediately broke down. I didn't even have to ask what happened in that moment, but I knew that she was gone. I just want to go back and be with her and hold her hand and be with her in that moment and help her to know that she's not alone. When Emily passed away, her passing was very public, and we knew very early on that we didn't want people to associate her with simply the event that took her life. We wanted people to not only know who she was as a person throughout her life, but to also know of her struggle, because we knew that there were so many moms out there who were struggling as well, and struggling in silence. We decided to start a foundation and wanted to call it the Emily Effect because of the effect that Emily had on people through just her genuine and kind nature, through the way that she was able to connect with people. We wanted her death to affect change and her story to shed light on this topic in a way that we could affect change surrounding the conversation around mental health. The Emily Effect in its simplest form is a place for connection. It's a place where moms can go and not only learn about Emily's story, but about the story of other moms. We've learned that a lot of moms feel isolated, they even feel insecure, and that gets hard for them because they don't feel like themselves. A lot of times they're not even really feeling, and that's hard for them, that they're not necessarily feeling depressed, but they're not feeling that joy and that happiness that they once felt either. A lot of moms feel anger. Some moms lose their sense of identity and they feel like the old me is gone. They have thoughts that they normally wouldn't have, and that's scary for them. They worry about things being perfect. They worry about whether their baby's okay or not and obsess about that to the point that they can't function. They feel flat. They struggle with motivation, even to do the simplest things like taking a shower. They feel emotionless, non-reactive, and oftentimes turn to unhealthy things to numb the pain. All these things are not normal, but they're common experiences, and they're very treatable. We're not alone in our experience, and I think that when we bring something into light, it also automatically diminishes the darkness and the shame surrounding that it's okay to talk about, that this is something that we can all share and connect with. The end goal of the Emily Effect is simply to end the shame behind perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. It's not a result of something that they did or that they didn't do, but because they're just having a common experience like many other moms do. Talking about a mom's mental health during or after she has a baby is a common conversation and not a taboo topic. And that when we talk about it with love and encouragement and not through the eyes of shame and darkness anymore. We know Emily's story has had an effect on people because we've had countless women reach out to us and share that hearing Emily's story has saved their life. I had a mom reach out to us just a couple days after she passed and said, "Because I heard your sister's story, I'm reaching out and I'm getting help today." I think every mom needs to know that they don't have to white knuckle their way through this experience and that they don't have to accept this as their new norm. It doesn't matter whether you warrant a diagnosis or not. Having a baby changes the life of every mom, and every mom needs support. What Emily would want for you is for you to have compassion for yourself and to realize that you don't have to hide. This is the experience that you're having and not who you are.